Okie dokie. Well, we had a fabulous lineup this morning and we have a fabulous lineup this afternoon. I'm so glad that you're all back with us. And now we're going to have my friend Faith Wilson introduce our fabulous Officer Joel Quattlebaum. So welcome, Faith.
Thank you, Linda. Good
How are you
afternoon.
today?
In 2021, 5.7 million people filed reports and described losing more than $5.8 billion to fraud. My name is Faith Wilson, as Linda said. I work in Clearwater, Florida. I am a financial advisor, and I help clients and partner with them in the community, providing resources, much like many of the ones you've learned about on this call the last 2 days. Officer Joel Quattlebaum has been with the Largo Police Department for 8 years, and specifically 6 years in the Senior Services Department. And his focus has been partnering with the entire community, with educating and assisting all of us, and making sure that scams and fraud stay far away from us. So with that, Officer Joel, thank you for your service. Thank you for all that you do, and please educate us all.
Thanks, Faith.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Hey, Linda, how are you doing?
Joyful and grateful.
Oh, good. Too blessed to be stressed, right?
Yes.
Well, hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking time this afternoon to share some of your schedule with us. There's a lot of good information that I wanted to go over today involving how to prevent elder fraud, identify common scams that we see, as well as some different community resources that are out there that can help you and help your loved ones and family as well. So I just want to quickly go into a little bit about the history of our program here at Largo Police Department. Very unique program, started back in early 2000s, part of our problem-oriented policing unit. The POP team is an interdisciplinary unit that really focuses in on different community, highlights as far as what we're looking at in the policing realm of current day is homelessness, mental health, elder resources, fraud, as well as some of the different street crimes aspects as well. So you definitely have a broad array of specialists on our interdisciplinary POP team. Unique approach to law enforcement for 2022. It's been around for a while. We've really honed in on some of the different community targets that we're looking at here as far as how we can help people and how we can offer a more holistic approach to policing. Now that we're in 2022, we want to be able to provide the best services possible for families and for caregivers. So the position here is both sworn law enforcement, criminal investigations into elder fraud, exploitation, theft from senior 65 plus, as well as traditional investigations for domestic battery, et cetera, involving seniors, along with the community outreach and education component. They go hand in hand, and honestly, one of the biggest things that could be done when it comes to elder fraud is simply getting out there and doing the education component and getting ahead of the fraud. Because the biggest thing is that we see, once the money is transferred, unfortunately, it does tend to go overseas. It's very hard to regain those funds back. And of course, once it leaves local jurisdiction, it's outside of our traditional law enforcement purview in order to try and retrieve funds or do further investigations overseas. So that being said, today, again, just sincerely thank you for taking time to be with us today and go over some of these different common themes that we see involving scams and frauds. And we're gonna go into a little bit of a differentiation on the two. So, this is something that it's very important. We see a day in and we see a day out. It's not uncommon on day shift to see 4 or 5 different fraud calls for service. And sometimes our desk alone will take that amount just from calls for service or people walking in saying, hey, I've noticed that my credit card is being used and I didn't make the transactions, or I'm receiving unwanted packages because I clicked on the Facebook link. So there's just a couple things that we're going to go over today as far as how to protect yourself, protect your loved ones, both online and in person. And then also some different resources that you may or may not have heard of, local to Pinellas County and nationwide as well. So to kick it off, just a little highlight as far as Largo, about 84,000 residents here, large senior population, over about 22,000 seniors here in Largo. So it's a big demographic for us, on a big focus as far as our priorities, as far as trying to help seniors, help families and caregivers out there. Let's talk about scams. Let's kind of delve into this a bit here, okay? common scams that we see, you're going to see them come across a couple different methodologies of reaching out to you. It could be telephone, could be text message, could be via traditional mail, it could be email. What we're seeing a large uptick in right now just is the smishing, the SMS, text message type of phishing, which is really just a way of trying to get your information, financials, etc. It's phishing with a PH, not a FISHING, although I bet most of us probably wish we were out fishing on a day like today. It's a beautiful sunny Largo here. But what we have to look out for is some of the different methodologies that they're going to try and get into what I call the windows and doors of our lives, avenues into our financial resources, our financial stability. So what we need to do is we need to, just like you hear about the lock your doors, lock your windows type of thing, we got to look at it from the perspective of how do we safeguard ourselves and our loved ones financially and online. So different scams. Let's talk about some of the different common scams that we have here. One of the things that we see a lot is that it's going to come across as somebody who has a high priority. They're going to call you with a great sense of urgency. We see that they're going to try and keep you on the phone, keep your loved ones on the phone. They don't want you to hang up. Okay. It's one of those things where think about trying to buy a used car. Okay. It's not something that you typically do every day. So when you do, you kind of dread that, because I don't want to be driven by the high pressure sales tactics. Well, guess what? When they have your information, they're going to drill you. They're going to be calling you morning, noon, night. They're going to wear you down over time. Okay. So think about what is being said. You receive a phone call, point in case example, or your loved one receives the phone call. Grandson, granddaughter, they're locked up in jail, some type of a warrant for your arrest. Let's see, could be we have an urgent shipping job for you. We need to send you a package. We're going to send you a check in the package. Make sure you cash it. There's going to be a little for you, but we need you to send some money back to us. Bunch of different methodologies of trying to get your personal information, which we call PII, personally identifiable information, or some methodology of getting your finances, whether it be through a Western Union wire transfer, bank-to-bank wire transfer, green dot cards, or it could be sometimes just simply sending cash in the mail. We've had calls for service where we had a lady who literally had $9,000 cash in a box that she was mailing to a different state, which was a drop location. So a couple key flags when you're looking at scam identification recognition, okay? If you or loved ones receiving a call, slow it down, okay? It's going to be high pressure sale tactic time as soon as you pick up that phone, all right? Is they're going to be trying to get your information. It's going to be something where either you've won a magnificent prize. It could be the lottery, could be some type of a grand prize, $5 million, and plus they're going to throw in a car. You can't forget the Buick that they're going to include in this as well, of course, it's going to be, you have to act now. This is a once in a lifetime offer, but you got to do it right now. Okay. Don't hang up the phone. Don't talk to anybody. I'm going to walk you through the steps of how you need to do this and get this. Oh, but you know what? There's also taxes included too. Slow it down, pick out what they're trying to say, pick out what their sales pitch is to you. Okay. Because they're trying to sell you to give them money. That is what they're trying to get you to do. Or they're trying to compromise your PII, trying to get social security number, credit card number, bank account information. Don't let them sucker you into it. Okay. I say this because we get these calls every single day, and it is very, very hard to work with somebody who's been scammed, because it takes a lot of courage and takes a lot of strength to recognize that and to say, you know what, I need to report this. I need to do something about this. I need to share this so other people don't get defrauded in the same way. So it takes a lot of compassion, working with families, because they are at their worst time. And these scams that ultimately turn into a fraud, it results in devastating financial loss a lot of the times. I was just speaking with a caregiver today. Unfortunately, she did not get power of attorney in time, so she didn't have the benefit of financial oversight for her mother. But it's one of those things where, come to find out, the scammers, it was a Jamaican scam, the lottery scam, and that her mom had lost significant amounts of money. We see a day in, we see a day out. So we're going to talk about some of the different scams that we commonly encounter, how to identify them, how to slow it down, how to pick it apart, and how to ultimately mitigate the risk of that scam becoming a fraud. Okay. So a couple of different free sites that you can look at. You have the Federal Trade Commission, ftc.gov. You have what they call ic3.gov, the Internet Crime Complaint Center. Huge resource. Most people have never heard of it before. So I'm going to say those two again. All right. ftc.gov and ic3.gov, Internet Crime Complaint Center. In short, Federal Trade Commission, whenever there's commerce that's conducted across the United States, that's governed Federal Trade Commission, right? The IC3 website is run by the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. What we see is through the internet scams that become a fraud, finances are transferred from one state to the next. So you have that interstate transfer of funds. That piques the interest of federal agencies. And so you have the FBI who's realized that this process of scams turning into frauds is becoming rampant. So we need to identify common scams, common themes, and then common players involved. What they've done is they've started aggregating the data. There's different ways that you can report, and this is going to go into once we start getting into these scams and how they turn into frauds. How do you report them? Okay, so a couple key entities here, a couple key players on this is going to be Federal Trade Commission, ftc.gov, and then the FBI running the ic3.gov website. So let's get into it. You get this call for service. Let's go back to our grand prize winning with the Buick included, of course, you know. So you realize this sounds way too good to be true, but what do you do about it? Let's say you call local law enforcement, right? I got this call from phone number 727-123-9542 or whatever it may be, okay? And they said that they have this grand prize for me. They said that I'm going to get a Buick on top of it. It sounded fantastic, but something told me it wasn't quite right. What can I do about it? What you're going to hear is this. It's not a criminal investigation at that point. No finances have been transferred. PII hasn't been exchanged. However, the information that you have is still of value. Okay. So how do you report a scam attempt? The Federal Trade Commission, they actually have an online reporting portal, or you can call them to their main phone number as well. But Federal Trade Commission, they run it through their ftc.gov website, a very easy, user-friendly reporting terminal in order to report scam attempts. Okay. So if it's a phone or traditional mail methodology, you're going to report it through the Federal Trade Commission. However, let's say this fantastic offer came to you via email. All right. Little different media source, right? So it's coming via email. If it's a technological scam that's coming through email sources, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to use the ic3.gov website, the Internet Crime Complaint Center through the FBI. Okay, so they have a very streamlined process, and it's actually it's fantastic. If you ever get a chance to go to it, just to look and see, you have the ability to upload files, you have the ability to provide statements. Very good website as far as reporting scam attempts. Reason being is this is rampant across the country. And so if we don't start aggregating the data, if we don't see common trends, we actually have crime analysts even here at the Largo Police Department, where we're seeing commonalities between fraud here, common different criminal cases. So we can aggregate that data and we can see how do we best approach this as a law enforcement community. So we have partners, Federal Trade Commission, ic3.gov. However, what happens if through this magnificent proposal that $5 million have been won and Buick's included as well? You believe it? Money is sent because naturally there's always going to be taxes to it. If it's free, it's free. Okay, that's one of the key factors. If somebody's offering you something, but then all of a sudden there's a price tag attached to it, and you might have to pay tariffs, you might have to pay taxes, slow it down and look and say, wait a minute, what's this money really used for? Okay. So let's say this does go through. Let's say money is sent. You need to send a wire transfer to this bank account, right? We'll come later to find out it's probably something offshore. However, you send the money. You go to your bank and say, I want to send a wire transfer for $5,000 to this bank account. It's for taxes for a grand prize. Good news is most banking institutions nowadays have invested heavily into training their employees and training their staff to try and mitigate these scams that turn into frauds, right? But unfortunately, some still do slip through the cracks. So let's say in this instance here, wire transfer is sent through, come to find out, you realize there is no grand prize. There is no Buick included. The person was a hoax, was a fake. However, you're still out the money for the taxes that allegedly were needed for this grand prize. Okay, what do we do now? Well, money has been transferred. There was a transaction, okay? Fortunately, your information, you didn't give them any information, but you're still out the money. So what do we do? In this case here, when you transfer funds like that, it changes from what we call a scam into a fraud, okay? As an official under the Florida statute, scheme to defraud. This is very common, the telecommunications frauds that we're seeing. There's actually a statute for it. So what you're going to do is your local law enforcement jurisdiction, if you live in Largo, you're going to go to Largo PD. If you live in unincorporated, you're going to go to the sheriff's office. But what you end up doing is you go to your local law enforcement jurisdiction and you report it, okay? And again, it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of strength to go and actually do a report on this. I say this because what we see is we see a lot of these frauds are not reported. You talk to somebody and when it's a big one, they call it in. But typically what's happened before is there's been several smaller frauds, several smaller amounts of money that have already been sent, okay? So that in and of itself is a challenge for folks to get their families to do. As a caregiver, I completely understand and I applaud everything you do day in and day out to try and keep your loved ones safe and healthy. But I do realize that it may be a challenge to get your loved one to try and report if they have been defrauded. One of the things that I can offer you as a senior services officer here at the Largo Police Department is the ability to try and sort through some of the different happenstances and occurrences. I'm more than happy to come out to the residents if you'd like. We can kind of talk this over and ultimately come to determination if it's something that needs to be reported, with an actual police report, or if it's something that needs to be reported through ftc.gov or ic3.gov. Okay, so I'm always available to you as a resource, and my contact information is on the conference website as well. Okay, more than happy to help you work through that with your loved one, with your families. So let's say you do a police report. Next steps on this is that it's going to be assigned for investigative resources. Okay, so they're going to look and see what are our intelligence factors on this. What is the probability for solving, and what is the probability for recovering the funds? All right. So once a police report's made, it's going to be reviewed, chain of command, and then from there ultimately determine whether or not to be assigned to a detective. For a lot of these overseas accounts that you transfer money to the Bank of Thailand, you transfer money to a Jamaican bank, it's gone beyond our purview. It's gone beyond traditional law enforcement jurisdictions for Largo. So what that means is that we are documenting it to help protect you. However, I do always want to say that it is very difficult to try to recover funds once it's sent internationally. So what do you do with your banks? What do you do with your credit cards? You need to notify them, okay? You can do an affidavit with your financial institutions and let them know, especially if it's a credit card account that's been breached, give them the heads up, communicate with your financial institutions and let them know that there's a compromise of your account information and that somebody else may be in possession of it, okay? So now we kind of talked about different scams and how they turn into frauds. Let's talk about the different themes that they go with as far as a scam. How do they attempt to get your money? How do they attempt to get your information? Okay, different methodologies, like we said, could be text message, it could be a phone call, it could be an email, it could be traditional mail. But let's talk about the actual tactics and themes of how they go about trying to deceive you. Okay, very common ones that we see day in and day out. We're going to start at the top, sweepstake scams. Okay, this is something that's bread and butter for scammers, day in, day out. Publishers Clearinghouse, we see Jamaican Lottery, the Prince of Nigeria wishes to give you money. Here's the thing, if you've won the Jamaican Lottery or your loved one thinks they've won the Jamaican Lottery, Ask them, Ma, Dad, did you play the Jamaican lottery? If they tell you no, chances are they didn't win the Jamaican lottery. Okay. I say that only because we see it all the time. So we have to have an honest conversation about it. If they believe that they've won the Jamaican lottery, talk them through. Okay. If you haven't played it, then this is something that it's most likely a scam. They're trying to get your information. They're trying to get financial means from you, whether it be check, cash, wire transfer, whatever it may be. They're trying to get money from you. Okay. So don't let that happen. If, let's say, it's the Publishers Clearinghouse, we've had instances where on our Southwest section, we had a very nice lady. She unfortunately was about to be evicted from her independent living apartments as lower income senior apartments. However, she was not able to pay her rent anymore. Reason being, she was sending money to Publishers Clearinghouse. It wasn't Publishers Clearinghouse, okay? Always be cautious if you're starting to see unusual mail come in for your loved ones, if you're seeing unusual emails come across, have open conversations, open communication as far as what financial transactions are happening, okay? If at all possible, I know it's been kind of discussed already before, but power of attorney is a magnificent tool to help give that financial oversight as far as what's happening within the bank accounts, where's the money going, because if it's being transferred internationally, then that's a problem. Okay. We had a gentleman out on the far east side. He transferred over $100,000 to the Bank of Thailand. He was caught up in a scam. Unfortunately, once he sent that money, we're now in the realm of a fraud, and it's a very devastating fraud. $100,000 was his savings for his retirement. So instead of being, able to thrive and successful in retirement, he's now looking at trying to make ends meet and having to use different financial assistance programs that are out there. If that's the case, reach out, okay? We do have countywide financial assistance programs. We have local financial assistance programs. Just because a scam has turned into a fraud and money has been lost doesn't mean that you have to live without air conditioning, that you have to let the lights be turned off. There are resources out there that can help. I'm more than happy to help connect you to those resources. Okay, we're going to talk about some of them today as well as part of this presentation. But ultimately, the biggest thing is acknowledge it, report it, and look at different resources to move on. Okay, Sweepstake Scam is a bread and butter one for them. Next one's going to be your grandparent scam. Okay, this is one of the very, very common ones that we see. You have, again, it's like we talked about, grandchild stuck in a different state. There's warrant charges for them. There's no way that they can come home. They need you to send money to get them home. They're going to pull up the heartstrings on this one. Okay. One of the most incredible stories was dispatch called me and said, "Hey, I got a gentleman on the line. He's very worried. His grandson's stuck in the state of New York. He's been talking to the state prosecutor, and grandson's hooked for a DUI, but he needs money to get him home. Can you go talk to him?" About to send the money. Absolutely. Went out to him, went to the house. When I showed up, gentleman was on the phone with the scammers. I asked, "Can I talk with them?" "Sure." Hands me the phone. "Good afternoon, this is Officer Quattlebaum, Largo Police Department." Sure as nothing, click was the next thing we heard, right? So I asked him, what happened? Long story short, gentleman had gotten this call, totally cold, absolute cold call, wasn't expecting it, from the state prosecutor for New York, saying that money was owed in order to get his grandson on a flight because he'd been picked up for a DUI in New York. And so, he's willing to work with them and get him home, ROR, but by the same token, he needed to send the money in order to get him on that flight home. Money needed to be in cash originally. He's going to send a couple Brinks trucks to the home for the senior to come pick up the cash. I asked the senior at that point, I'm like, "Sir, I have to ask, did you see a Brinks truck today?" He's like, "Oh no, they never came. They were too busy." Okay, I'll be honest with you. I've never encountered where a Brinks truck's coming, to pick up money from my house, but that's a pretty significant red flag there. He's like, "Yeah, I thought that was suspicious too." I'm like, "Well, it sounds like it probably was." And so what happened next? Well, since the Brinks trucks were all busy, He wanted me to go to the local Walmart, get some gift cards, and then read him the serial numbers. So I asked, did you get the gift cards? Yep, I got the gift cards. They're right here. Did you read the serial numbers? No, that's when I called you guys. I'm like, hallelujah, because guess what? Once that money, once you read that serial number, they're already logged in on the website, ready to transfer it. So fortunately, that crisis was averted. And it doesn't matter if it's $5,000 or $50,000, right? Because ultimately, this is the money that is needed to survive on, keep the lights on, keep water going, pay bills, get groceries, etc., right? And ultimately lead to a successful retirement. So situations like that do occur very commonly. Don't be caught on it. The other one that we have is the IRS scam. Very, very common as well. So the IRS is a federal agency. They're going to communicate with you. However, it's going to be through registered mail. You're not going to be getting cold calls from the IRS saying that you have a warrant for your arrest. Okay. So this is something, if you're getting a cold call totally out of the blue from an IRS agent saying that there's a warrant for your arrest, hold the phone, pause, slow it down. That's one of the best things you could ever do is slow it down. Okay. Had this happen, had a lady in Southwest section, Wells Fargo Bank was ready to pull out more money. She'd already been the day prior, pulled out $7,000. The bank manager thought it was unusual that she was back in the next day trying to pull out another $4,000. Called us. Lady wouldn't talk to police officers on scene at all. Very concerned. Well, come to find out, she believed she'd gotten a call from an IRS agent. IRS told her, you have a warrant for your arrest. If you don't pay up, police are going to come for you. Kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Who shows up? The police, just as promised by this IRS agent. So no wonder she didn't want to talk to us. It took a little while, but we were able to convince her that we're not there for a warrant arrest, that we're there simply trying to assist as best as possible. So what ended up happening was she had this IRS agent on the phone with her, okay? What ended up happening was he would not let her hang up. He wanted her on the phone the whole time. He was walking her through the process, where to go, the address, how much to take out, step-by-step instructions. Wouldn't let her hang up, wouldn't let her talk to anybody. Same as with the gentleman with the gift cards from Walmart. He didn't want him to call his grandson. He didn't want no conversations. You talk to me alone. That's one of their tactics. They want to keep you on the phone. They don't want you talking to family, friends. They want to keep you isolated, because if you start asking questions, then you might start realizing that you're being scammed. Okay. So be leery. Those are some of the common tactics that they use. High pressure has to be done now. Don't talk to anybody. And I'm going to give you step-by-step instructions. So some people have asked, how do they find out where I need to go? How do they know that the nearest Wells Fargo is, 5 minutes down the block, or Walmart's only 10 minutes away? Answer is this. Unfortunately, your information is out there. Okay. So we talked a little bit about some of the very common scams and the very common frauds. I want to also talk about how your information gets out there and how it gets breached. Okay. So one of the common sources is we give our information away, very often than not. Okay. So what we end up doing is we sign up for savings clubs, cards. You might go to your local pharmacy, grocery store, you sign up for their savings club. And what's part of that application? Name, phone number, current address, email, a lot of times your date of birth. They're trying to get a lot of biographical information about you, right? You sign up for that, boom, you hit submit. You're going to save $25 on your first purchase, but guess what? You just sent your information to who knows where, because did you read the fine print? Most likely not. And whenever I go out in communities, I tell them this. Think about when you're going shopping, right? Everybody's in a hurry these days, right? You go to the grocery store, you're at local Walgreens, CVS, or wherever it may be. You're in line. Everybody's kind of tapping their feet, looking at their phone. Come on, hurry up, hurry up. So by the time you get to actually doing your purchase and it's time to swipe your card, and the nice cashier says, hey, would you like to sign up for our savings club? You're going to save $25 on your first purchase. You think, yeah, absolutely, I would. I'd love to save $25. It's a lot of money. However, when you look at the little screen and you have to scroll down in the micro print to sign up for the club, are you really reading the fine print when you got 15 people behind you tapping their feet saying, come on, hurry up? Probably not. But a lot of times what those documents have on there that you're signing off on is a disclosure option where they can sell your information. Okay. It's called data brokering. They can data broker your information, legally sell. You give them authorization to sell your money, to share it, or to share your information. Problem with that is then it ends up on other sites. We call them data aggregation sites. What it means is your information, your data, your public information, that which has been sold, has been aggregated to one site. So a couple examples of this, I always like to highlight the big ones, because if you look at your information, and I'm going to challenge you to do this right after today's presentation, go to some of these sites and put yourself in there, put your loved ones in there, and find out how much of your information is out there and accurate. You'd be very scared to see. It's surprising. We've actually had a couple of law enforcement bulletins on this of, hey, just so you know, your information is out there for the world to see. Okay. So a couple of them are fastpeoplesearch.com, truepeoplesearch.com, Family Tree Now, and then spokio.com. I'm going to say them again. fastpeoplesearch.com, truepeoplesearch.com, Family Tree Now, and then spokio.com. And that's spokeo.com. If you go to these websites, you put in your name, you put in your location, it's going to pop up with a whole bunch of information that's very accurate. More than likely, it's going to have your current cell phone number. It's going to have your current home address, previous home addresses. It's going to have email address, prior email addresses, etc. And then not only that, more often than not, these data aggregation websites, they also have on there a little Google Maps. Okay. So you go down, you scroll down the screen, you're going to see, that's where my current address is. You click on it, guess what happens? It takes you to Google Maps. So then you go on Google Maps and you can see exactly where your current house is, where you're living right now. Gets better, right? Google Maps, for those of you that are familiar, it's a great resource if you're trying to navigate, find out where you're going. However, it also has a lot of good features and tools, but they can be used against you sometimes. Okay. Google Maps has what they call Street View. You can literally drive down your street, okay, and you can see what it looks like down your street. Now, it's not always the most accurate. It could be a year or so old, but more often than not, when that Google car goes by, it's going to still say the same. Let's say, unless there's unfortunately like a hurricane or something, a tree blows down. But other than that, pretty much most homes remain the same from year to year. So you can drive down your street digitally on the laptop via Google Maps. A little scary, huh? So let's take it back a step. We talk about your information being out there and how it can be used against you. What about some of these scammers where they say, hey, you know what? We want to keep you safe. We know there's people that have been watching you. Here's how we know. They called us and they were reporting this, that, and the other thing. But amongst them was that you drive a maroon Kia. You have about 6 foot high bushes. Your house is blue. And, you know, it's probably time to trim the azaleas. And before you know it, you're thinking, how do they know all this stuff about my house and what car I drive? Answer is this. They simply typed your name into a search engine online, took them to one of the data aggregation sites. From there, they popped up your current address, went to Google Maps, went to Street View, and saw exactly how your house looks, more than likely today, if not a year ago. Okay, kind of scary. So how do you get your information off these data aggregation sites? Okay, fastpeoplesearch.com, truepeoplesearch.com, Family Tree Now, Spokio. Well, they don't make it easy. I'm not gonna lie, they don't make it easy. It's more often than not hidden on their site somewhere where you can have your information taken down. It's kind of that old game. You remember the old game of whack-a-mole? Okay, absolutely, that's exactly what it is. So you have to go to each site, request that they take your information down. They will, they have to. However, you have to go to each individual site and request your information be taken down. Okay. It can be a little tedious because there's so many of these sites out there, but those are some of the very common perpetrators. Fast People Search, True People Search, Family Tree Now, Spokio. Just be leery of those. Okay. So let's talk about your information's out there. What can we do to safeguard ourselves and our loved ones, right? Well, if we know our information's out there, then we have to know that it can be used against us. Okay. because all this information is very valuable. It's actually very valuable to law enforcement, because if we have a missing person and they're from out of state, if they're snowbirds and they're just visiting our city, then we don't really have any local database information on them, right? However, through these websites, more often than not, we can get past information on family. It has prior addresses, prior phone numbers. It actually has little links where you can click on potential relatives and associates. So if you see somebody with the same name and the person that you're looking at is 75 years old, the person that you're looking at is in their 60s or 50s, you might be looking at a brother, sister, or it might be a kid or a grandkid. And if they got the same last name, a little bit of a gamble, but guess what? You click on that, find that phone number, you call them. Hey, what do you know? See how these scammers can use it against you? They do. They build these believable stories. We call it an affinity scam. Okay. So what they do is they go from complete outside strangers. They build up these stories. They get to know you by doing their research online. Okay. And through that research that they do, they create stories. They can bring up key little pertinent details. Hey, you remember back, up in New York. Oh boy, I remember living off the lakes. They had the lake effect. It would get really cold. They can look at your history. They can look at your information, and they can use it against you by building these believable stories, engaging with your loved ones, and building that rapport. That's why isolation is so dangerous when it comes to frauds. Okay, a loved one that is isolated is a loved one that is exploitable. Okay, keep them close, keep an eye on the finances. Again, power of attorney, keep going into this, but the ability to look in on the finances to see if anomalous transactions are occurring, transfers are occurring, huge, absolutely huge. Catch it early. Check your credit scores, go to the different 3 reporting bureaus. Here's the thing, if you're not looking to make a major purchase anytime soon, or your loved one's not looking to make a major purchase anytime soon, freeze your credit score, okay? Freeze it. If there's no need to make a big transaction, a big purchase, take a loan out, freeze it, okay? Very, very important. All right, let's keep moving on here. All right, so as far as fraud prevention, let's talk about the actual people that are here, all right? You have individuals that will come to your door, knock, 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 I'm the best tree service in the world, don't you know it? Okay, how do I know that? Well, just as we talk about security in the digital world, security in the physical world is very important as well, okay? So this is something that we've realized. There is a concept called Septuag, crime prevention through environmental design, okay? It's being implemented all across. It's actually part of the City of Tampa's building codes now. It's incorporated into all their new buildings. With the City of Largo, as we're building our new city hall here, we're incorporating Septuag concepts. What it is simple. We're not saying you need to get a $5,000 security system. We're not saying you need to, get a dragon and build a moat around your house. Okay. Simple recommendations using good LED lighting, which by the way helps you if you are unfortunately the victim of a crime, a bicycle burglary or break-in or something like that. You have LED lighting that gives you what they call a better color rendering index. Okay, CRI. So if you have good LED lighting versus the old halogen lighting, the colors of the person's clothes, their hair, is going to pick up a lot better. It gives you a better description to provide to local law enforcement. Okay, so good LED lighting. They call it's a 2 foot, 6 foot rule. So as far as shrubbery and maintenance outside, you don't want to have your shrubs that are higher than 2 feet, and you don't want your trees with their vegetation any lower than the 6 foot. So it gives you a good window. So that way you can see if somebody's lurking outside of your home. But let's say you've done everything you can, right? Good lighting, maintain the shrubs, maintain the trees, house is in good state of repair. You may have even employed a video recording device, right? One of those video doorbells now, or they got the video floodlights outside. I tell you, you can do everything nowadays. Great video, perfect for evidence purposes for law enforcement. It's been very beneficial for us as far as going into some of these investigations further, getting that video evidence from homeowners is huge. But let's say you've done everything right, but you're still getting knocks on the door, okay? How do you know that the person at your door is legitimate? A couple different ways of doing it, okay? If they're coming to your door, they should have a couple different things. Do they have a vendor permit? Okay, per the county ordinance, they have to have a vendor permit. all right? For the city ordinance, at least for Largo, they have to have a vendor permit as well, registered with the city. So if they're coming to your door, trying to sell you a service, a product, whatever it may be, they're saying that they're the best service in the world, fantastic, good to go. However, where's your permit? If they can't produce a permit, valid identification, don't even open that door, okay? Somebody's knocking on your door. If you don't know who it is, use the video doorbell, talk through the door. If you're not seeing identification on that person, don't open up your door, okay? If they say that they're with a legitimate organization, okay? I believe it to a point. All right, what organization are you with? Well, I'm here with a county building inspector. Outstanding. What's your phone number for the county building inspector? 12345 XYZ. All right, I'm gonna look it up too. Get on your phone, get on your laptop, verify the phone number they gave you, and call the phone number. Look it up online. Okay. Call and see that this is the person who they say they are. If you call the county building inspector and they say, yeah, we don't have any personnel at that address right now currently, yep, don't open the door. Keep it dead bolted, keep it locked, okay? Don't answer, right? And you should probably call local law enforcement as well for suspicious activity, okay? Call, verify. If it's something where you're engaged in current negotiations with the business organization and you're concerned as far as the person coming to your home, they're sending personnel. If you have the person's identification, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement has what they call a PAS system, PAS. So if you go online, use a internet search option, you can search FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and then PAS, okay? So this is good if you have people coming into your home, it'll tell you if they have current warrants for them, if they're a wanted person, okay? We hope for the best, but expect the worst. Unfortunately, it's just the world we live in. You have to always try and safeguard yourself, your loved ones, and family. So if you have somebody coming into your home and you're a little concerned, or you just want to do that initial check to see if there's at a baseline, you know, there's no criminal warrants for this person, go to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the PAS system, and you can actually go through and check that person and make sure that they are, you know, not a wanted person at that time. Okay, so this is a public access system. It's not a secure law enforcement database. You can actually access it yourself. Okay. So you have people coming to your home. Physical security is absolutely critical as well, just as much as your digital footprint. Okay. We talk about if you're getting calls and you don't know who it is, don't pick up the phone. If you get somebody knocking on your door and you don't know who it is, don't answer the door. I know all this sounds very common sense, but unfortunately, common sense can be difficult when you're looking at day in, day out, you're caring for somebody else, you're trying to care for yourself, you're trying to manage bills, you're trying to manage a household. There's a lot of factors in play here. And that's a lot of stress on your shoulders that you're trying to shoulder yourself, okay? I understand that, and I understand things happen. If you have questions, you can always contact me and we can walk through it step by step, okay? But sometimes the most common sense thing is the best thing, all right? Somebody's at the door, don't answer it. They're gonna leave a pamphlet, let them leave a pamphlet, right? Just for your information, unlicensed contracting, it is a ordinance violation within the county, within the city as well. And it's something that can be prosecuted further on. If you're experiencing unlicensed contracting, or if you're getting these calls for service from people that are trying to sell the frozen steaks, frozen lobsters out of the back of their, 72 pickup truck, then that's something that needs to be looked into, okay? So your local law enforcement agency, and then the Department of Consumer Protection for the county, for Pinellas County, will actually look at and investigate as well, okay? So a couple of different resources for you for physical security as well, either local law enforcement for ordinance violations, as well as for the county, Consumer Protection can also help protect, investigate further as well. They work with the local state prosecutors. So those are a couple different segues into what I want to get into next. All right. We talk about scams, how they become frauds, how do you report them? We talk about a little bit about physical security with your home using Septuag concepts, which, by the way, if you live in Largo, within the City of Largo's jurisdiction, myself and Officer Bowling, the crime prevention officer, we do come out free of charge to people's homes, and we'll do a quick 30-minute assessment using Septuag concepts to identify different ways to augment security within the home. So that's just a little point too, is if you live within Largo, that's definitely a great resource for you. We'd be glad to come out 30 minutes of your time and help identify some of the security potentials for your home. Well, let's talk about resources, okay? Driving. This is something that I get a lot of calls from caregivers. How do I get the keys away from mom, dad, or whomever you're trying to take care of? Challenging question, right? Challenging conversation to begin with. So how do we do this? If they're not safe driving, first step that we need to do is we need to have them evaluated, okay? If you witness unsafe driving under the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, you can go to their website. They actually have a PDF that you can print out and you can report an unsafe driver, okay? Physicians, law enforcement, we do it as a matter of the job, traffic crash investigations. If a doctor has a patient that comes in that's no longer safe to drive, they can do a referral as well. But you can actually download the form and you can report an unsafe driver. Step number one, okay? And I say that because just because somebody may not be safe on the road, you can't just take somebody's rights away like that, right? So they can still drive, they still own their property, but we have concerns that they might not be safe on the roads. How do we report it? Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, DHS&V, you go on their website, they have a PDF form, you can send it in. It's confidential under statute 322 is the chapter that you're looking at, okay? So 322 of the Florida statutes is can protect your confidentiality. So you can report it, so I can come back to you, on this day, on this time, your son, your daughter threw you under the bus and said it's not safe to drive anymore. Doesn't work that way, okay? Because ultimately what we want is safe drivers on the road. It's just something that's absolutely critical. We have major arteries in this area. You got Almerton Road, you got East Bay Drive, you got 19, Keene, Belcher, some major arterial roadways in Pinellas County. We have to have safe drivers out there. If you're concerned for your loved one, get with me. It's a challenging conversation. I definitely understand that. So feel free to reach out. Also want to talk about a couple other local resources too. The Chore Services program is through the Pinellas Opportunity Council. They offer once a year free cleaning for a home for seniors. So as a caregiver, I know you have a lot on your plate. However, if you're finding that it's too much or it's too difficult for you physically to accomplish, you can always reach out and we can get you referred to the Chore Services program through the Pinellas Opportunity Council. Once a year, they'll come out top to bottom, do a free clean for your home. It's a great resource. I've referred a lot of people and gotten them connected. The other one is the Area Agency on Aging. This is a resource for Pinellas and Pasco County residents. They offer actually a free counseling program. They just started that this past month here, where they offer free counseling for families, for seniors in the area, as well as they do have their intake system where they can get you processed for in-home services. So again, this is a great resource. The Senior Legal Helpline is offered through the Florida Department of Elder Affairs. If you have legal questions, you're trying to get a gauge on power of attorney, healthcare surrogate, living will. If you have other legal concerns, the Senior Legal Helpline is a free program offered through the Florida Department of Elder Affairs. Some of these resources here, their information is offered on our largo.com website. It's the Senior Services tab. It has a lot of these different resources already highlighted on there. So what I'm going to have you do is if you're interested in Chore, Area Agency on Aging, and some of these different programs, you can go to the largo.com website. It's on the Senior Services tab. Okay, I've uploaded a lot of this information. And also we're working on getting a low housing type of opportunities for people as well. There's a bunch of different low housing or low income housing spots here in Pinellas County. We're trying to get that highlighted on the website as well for folks. So that way, if you or people that you know are looking for income based housing, we're gonna have a couple different resources on there as well. So we covered a lot, but let's go back to driving one last time here. One program that we have in the county, started in 2018, is the Pinellas County Yellow Dot program. This is a resource that I'd be very remiss if I didn't talk about because we started here in Largo, okay? Not to pat anybody on the shoulders, but Largo is what started this countywide program, okay? So under the Florida statutes, the Yellow Dot program was authorized back in 2012, okay? We actually knocked it out and got it enrolled here in the county for Pinellas in 2018. Started really getting underway and really disseminated onto the community about 2020. But what you can do is Pinellas County government, you go to their website and you put in there in the search function yellow dot. What it is it's a yellow decal that goes on the rear driver's windshield for your vehicle, but it indicates in the glove box. Essentially, it's like a file of life, like you keep on a refrigerator, but it's in the glove box. Countywide program, it's fantastic in case of an emergency, traffic crash, traffic stop. If there's some type of a speech impediment or inability to communicate, allows the first responders, EMS, fire rescue, law enforcement to know, look in that glove box for the yellow dot pamphlet, medical information, doctor info, etc. Allows for good, seamless communication amongst everybody during those crisis incidents. So Pinellas County Yellow Dot is a huge program, great resource. You can request as many as you want. The county will actually ship it out to your home for you.
So Joel, if I could say something else about that.
Yeah. Keep going.
I think a fabulous idea is for people who are the caregiver to put a little sticky note on the back of their driver's license that says, I am caring for someone at home with their name and phone number. Because God forbid, I just run out to the store to get some milk and I get in a car accident and I'm unconscious.
Yeah.
What is my loved one at home going to do?
Yeah. Well, and that's why we have programs like our Safety Net program, where we loan out tracking bracelets for community members here in Largo. Pinellas County Sheriff's Office has the program, but Largo Police Department actually will loan out a Safety Net tracking bracelet for free to families, to caregivers. If you're caring with somebody who has dementia or Alzheimer's, allows law enforcement to locate somebody typically in about 20 minutes. It's radio frequency technology. And that's, again, just another great resource for caregivers. If you're caring for somebody with dementia or Alzheimer's, that tends to wander.
Yeah, well, I just want the caregiver to identify that they're a caregiver.
Well, that's a big thing. I always ask whenever I do these presentations is, who's a caregiver in the room? Not a lot of people raise their hands.
No.
But you know, are you a husband? Are you a wife? You know, are you a mom or a dad? Because guess what? The kids, even though they grow up, they might be this high, not this high, but you still got to take care of them, right?
Right.
That's it. So there's caregivers don't always recognize the strength that they have, that they are caregivers and all that they do for their families. And that's something that definitely, we got to acknowledge that people are.
Well, that's why we're here talking about all this stuff.
That's it. You know, and that's why I'm glad to be a resource for, everybody listening today, and more than happy to help talk about some of these, different concepts, different resources as well, and how best to keep, yourself and your families and those that you're taking care of safe. In the coming years here.
And I'd like to say one last thing, wherever you are in the United States, because there's people from all over the place listening to the conference. If you're not sure and you're concerned about your loved one, especially if you don't live in the same state, call the police department and have a welfare check.
Yep.
Because it's so important, and anybody can do that anywhere.
And not only that, I mean, here's the thing is, people don't typically think about the police as a resource, but absolutely they can be. If you're out of state and your loved one's down here or vice versa, you call, you have a welfare check done. Another thing that what we do is we actually offer an Rms Id program. It's basically like a medical alert bracelet, but it's engraved on there with a record management number. Mm-hmm. Our system, our database has the person's information. If somebody has dementia, Alzheimer's, medical issues, or whatever it may be, you can talk to our dispatch or call, contact me, and we can have it put on the call notes for that residence where they live, that location, that, this person has XYZ, and then this is the point of contact. So if it's something where, you're a caregiver from a distance, you can contact your local law enforcement jurisdiction and let them know, hey, I'm the caregiver. Trust me, they're going to appreciate it, because if they're going out for a welfare check or a missing person, they're looking for who to contact. So that way they're not trying to use fast people search or true people search to try and find you, So that's a huge, opening that conversation ahead of time is fantastic if you can do that.
Yep. Everything's about the conversation ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you for being with us today. We so appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Linda.
Thanks. Have a delicious day.
You too. Take care and stay safe, folks.
Okay. Thank you.